Oh my goodness, you guys. I was walking around. I do a 10-minute walk every hour, and I just lost track of time. So I am here. This is Saturday, August 22nd, 2026. And I'm Cassie with Elizabeth Inman Ministries. And I feel like I didn't just crawl out of bed. I've been up for a long time. I fell asleep listening to this. This is one of the readings that has literally changed my life. So I really wanted to come on the computer too and be able to comment with you all. But this is a little different without Paul, who is traveling. He's on an ATV trip with his son, our youngest. And I wanted to be able to try to do all of it, but it's much easier with a partner. So kudos to all of you that do it alone. I think that's also what threw me off yesterday. But anyway, I have a lot of notes and I had a lot of thoughts about this. I've been in prayer all week and especially yesterday and today. And oh my goodness, the growth that I feel like or the understanding I have, I guess I should say. Oh, sure. And now my computer says I'm supposed to update. Well, I won't be able to see your comments, but I will interact after, probably just as well, so I can stay more on track. So today in our reading, I'm Cassie with Elizabeth Inman Ministries, and Job is the book that I came to Dream Big today with. I had questions in 2020 about it, and search engine must have heard me because Elizabeth was on my feed the next day talking about her take on, I don't know what's happening with my computer, and I don't want to touch a button that's wrong. Her take on it was just like, I never saw it that way. Of course, not really. I was reading the Bible to read the Bible. Searching for answers without praying beforehand, which really is not asking God to be with you in it. So now that I understand that, opening my heart to Him before I read, it shows so much more. And it's not lengthy. It's just like, Lord, what do you want me to know about this? It's so different when I read like that. And we're putting it in context because Job is actually after Genesis 11. So when you think of that and you put it in its place, a lot of this changes. So let's get into it. This is Eliphaz's reply to Job. And Eliphaz saw the suffering as God's punishment. And that if Job would just confess, everything would go away. Everything would be made right. And he has a lot of interesting comments that could be true, but also there's wrong assumptions. Like he states in here that it's led to believe an innocent person never suffers. And that's not true. We all know we go through trials, even though we've done nothing wrong. It's really something, when you think of it as it's happening for me, not to me, how else does God show us what's in our heart? When I get upset and I rant and want my own way, that's me being selfish and disturbed or inconvenienced, interrupted. Oh my goodness. I think I stated yesterday, comfort and convenience are my idols. I would rather be sitting on my couch going to church than actually getting dressed and going to church. There is such a benefit to being in the church service and doing your part at the church service. And I know that momentarily I was lazy about going. That I let some maybe bitterness get in my way of worshiping. And that's not okay. So anyway, another assumption is that those that are suffering are being punished because of past sins. Many still think that today. I've talked about Charlie in our neighborhood many times, And he's just waiting to be punished from God because of his past stuff. I'm like, oh, let's talk. Let's pray about this. And I know he loves the Lord, but he doesn't follow God. It's like, well, I think we all have that in our lives where instead of us serving God, he's there to serve us. Maybe be a wish list. And also, he alludes to Job did something wrong in God's eyes. So therefore, that's why he's suffering. Well, the Bible is full of examples of what his followers should do and should not do. And Job is really big about this, I think, when you start reading it, because of the conversation we are privy to in the very beginning of Job. Remember, Job and his friends did not hear God and Satan's conversation. So it's very easy for us to go to it's very easy for his friends probably to go to the judgment of why this is happening to Job. And also, I thought it was interesting in verses 12 through 15, out of chapter 4 of Job, it says, or is it 15? It's 15 where it says, the Spirit swept past my face and my hair stood on end. The Spirit stopped, but I couldn't see its shape. There was a form before my eyes, and in the silence I heard a voice say, can a mortal be innocent before God? Can anyone be pure before the Creator? In the reference of this verse in my Life Application Bible, it took me to verse 42, chapter 42, 7, which will be coming up in the weeks ahead here. And God says, in response to him of this, I am angry with you and your two friends, for you haven't spoken accurately about me as my servant Job has. Think about God saying that about you. After expressing his own ideas, Eliphaz states that he saw a spirit, that he saw a form of a spirit, which confirms his thoughts were correct. Like, you go ahead, you go correct Job. And then what God is stating in 42:7, to be corrected like that, being misrepresented, we need to take that to heart too. What is God thinking of doing, of what we're doing, what our actions are, and what our motives are? I got to think that this conversation, all the friends talking with Job, they're all trying to prove their point that they're right, that their own thoughts are correct. So there's so much of his own opinion here, and it goes back and forth, and Job replies to each of them in this. This is what the middle part is. And in all of it, don't just go past it. They say some really beautiful things in here, but also some really wow stuff. But the words can be beautiful. This is the poetry part of the Bible. And let's remember how it started with, once upon a time, there was a man named Job who lived in a land of Uz. I love that. So there's always a different verse or two, and there's a lot for it in there for me to grab my attention. So when something grabs your attention, go to it. Find out more about it. It's maybe a season that we're going through, or a question we've been pondering. There might be an answer that we're looking for. So make sure to pray and read and find out more. Dig in and dwell. There's something that God has for us in it. We can learn how to be a good friend in here and a true advocate for his word, that we're not just assuming. All of his friends are assuming here, and no one is privileged to know the conversation that God and Satan had. We are. So keep that in focus. We know we should learn just through that, because it's special information for us. It teaches us should and should not do's. So when I read through it and I think of that, I'm thinking, where am I speaking out of turn? Where am I speaking when maybe I should be silent? And maybe listening in love? Where am I quick to judge or assume I know the situation? Where do I think I know better than somebody else? Pride comes before the fall. And if we think we know it all, we should go to that word, assume. Have you ever really looked at the spelling of that word? So, because we know of the conversation, there are many items or comments in this that should lead us to believe, yes, there's good advice here, but it may not apply to Job's situation. Job's being tested here because he's been called his servant. Have you seen my servant's heart? Or what does he say yesterday? He said, my servant Job, that he is upright and blameless. And I have to keep reminding myself of the suffering and the grieving that Job is going through. That is physical punishment, actually. Stress and grieving can do something to us. And when we stay in it too long, it creates problems. But I forget in all of this how when he keeps defending himself, that he's actually grieving the loss that he went through. So in my thoughts, I'm thinking, how could I be different in this situation? That maybe love is an action, right? That I would do stuff like maybe help clean up, maybe go get and bring food, prepare a meal, get clothes, give clothes, cleaning. I already said cleaning up, but cleaning his clothes, or medicine for the boils, or what about the wife who's also grieving, sitting with her and just sitting? Think about them sitting there for 7 days not doing anything. And then now what? Did they do that because that gives them right to talk about his situation? Like they know everything? I have to remember not to fix. I'm not here to fix with words. Love is an action. And this was made clear to me. That love is an action. Where are you acting? Where are you helping? If people say, you're like, what can I do? And they say nothing. They can't think of anything. Do it anyway. If you thought of going to get them groceries, leave a bag of groceries on their doorstep. If you thought of making them a meal or cookies or sending a card or sending a plant or doing gardening, do it. You can't outgive God. And your treasures, talents, and time are His. He gives them to you. What are you going to do with them? Sorry. So, chapter 6, Job's reply. Verse 14, it says, one should be kind to a fainting friend, but you accuse me without any fear of the Almighty. And honestly, over and over, I keep thinking, who needs friends like this? Why is he spending so much time and energy defending what he already knew was true? He knew the details in his life, and he was called upright and blameless. He hasn't heard that. That's a conversation we heard about. But his friends didn't hear that either. And honestly, didn't see his day-to-day routine with the Lord. Did they know about the birthday celebrations of him sacrificing for his kids just in case they sinned? Probably not. They only see the suffering and they're judging out of that, not even thinking of who he was before. Job is trying to convince his friends of his relationship with God. And really, silence is golden. Less is more. If we know who we are in Christ, why do we let the world speak to us? So, and also in this chapter, does anyone else feel like he's come very close to blaming God? He doesn't, but in my thinking, I'm thinking that asking questions and complaining are maybe blaming him. But we know it's okay to ask God questions. It's okay to complain, to vent to him. Leave it with him. He's okay with it. He can handle it. He created us. He knows our heart. He knows how sometimes we have to talk through things or write things down or sit with it for 3 days, like somebody talks about in this group, Debbie. sit with it for a couple days and see what we're actually supposed to say and do about it. Wait for that confirmation. Think of where the focus is when you're doing that. Is it about me and my answers? Or is it about worshiping while I wait? Giving God the glory in the troubles. Cling to him, which we'll talk about, provided. Yeah. Okay. So, chapter 7 in verse 13, it switches to defending himself, to expressing his emotion to God. It's okay to express our emotion. And he's very close to suggesting that God doesn't care about him and wasn't being fair. And then again, in a reference, chapter 32 coming up, verse 2, God says, "Who is that questioning my wisdom with such ignorant words? Brace yourself like a man, because I have a few questions for you that you must answer." This is my favorite part of Job. My favorite part of Job. Go and read it. Where is the shoreline? Who put the stars in place? How do the horizons... He's never missed a sunset, guys. He's never missed a sunrise. And I often think about it when troubles come, to go back and read it, because he knows. I don't know. So read the end of Job to change your perspective on your own troubles. Okay, so now we're going to go to the New Testament, chapter 14, 18 through 40. There's lots in here. And my focus here is the placement of 14. It comes after 13, which 13 he shares all about God's love. So let's read this through God's love, because this could be triggering for a lot of people. Use it as a filter. Yesterday we were reading where Paul's making several points about speaking in tongues. And I just want to talk about that real quick because it sets an order. A spiritual gift. Speaking in tongues is a spiritual gift from God. It is a desirable gift, but not required for your faith. It's less important than prophecy and teaching. And he stresses prophecy or preaching and teaching because it benefits the whole church, where speaking in tongues benefits the speaker. So public worship should be understandable to the whole church. With that said, here today he states that his many languages he needed to have because many needed to understand about the gospel. He was able to speak, he was able to communicate with the Jews, Greeks, Romans. He spoke in Hebrew. Very talented. And with such wisdom, right? He even spoke with the theologians. This year, with the experience I shared yesterday about the retreat I went to in September, where I talked about the dear friend and her language to God, it's clear to me now that when others do it, their main focus or motivation is love. It's asking for God's understanding for them to share with another, to capital S-C, to capital H, here, God, for the group or for somebody else. It's providing another to help understand his incredible gifts, right? I'm so grateful for the new growth. Reading this last year was so weird to me, and it has helped strengthen my walk with God, my prayer life, and how I can even now pray with another where I used to shy away from it. I've shared before how Paul and I, we spent years, he would always pray for me and I would never pray with him. And silently, yes, but out loud, no. And now I'm more apt to do that, and I'm so grateful for that. So when you go to service and you're seeing the singing and maybe the testimonies and seeing healings or listening to the teaching, understand it's all for him, that all of this is for him. And when somebody is expressing praise to God, it is their love for him. We are not to judge. When the service goes too long, when the talk isn't about me, when nothing I'm going through, blah, 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 put yourself in another area, like, think about, what is my motivation? Is church serving me or am I serving God? Because we should be there with the motive to serve our Creator. And have you ever been to a service in chaos? New into my relationship with God, Paul and I went to a service that was completely chaotic. And it had a feeling of, oh, I'm never doing that again. But in 1 Corinthians, in this chapter here, there's an order. God is a God of order. And there's some guidelines on God's order. And it's to benefit all for him. And this is why he does that. So keep that in mind and remember to focus on his love. And with that, verse 34 can come with some controversy. And our focus here is how God made us. Men and women, we're made differently. Woman is man's helper. And God's gifts, he gifts each of us with different strengths and emotions. And there's a recent study that says women talk over 12,000 words a day. Any guess what men talk? About 5,000. We are to express ourselves differently than what men do. And so we also have to remember where we are. We're in Corinth. Corinth is evil, immoral. It has priestesses in the little g altars up in the mountain. And when these services were going on, they would come down and they would have these detestable practices and sway people to be part of their rituals or prostitution. And they had no place in the service. Paul had to make it very clear that women, using the filters of love and God's order, were not to be teaching the service. And I used to have a big problem with that. But now understanding where it comes in the Bible and Paul's heart who's trying to teach, I have to say, when somebody does not have a heart for God and does not know that Jesus died for them, does not acknowledge it, they are not allowed to confuse the service. If this chapter is a trigger for you, message me. Let's talk. I'm still learning, but I'm willing to sit with it and pray about it and help understand my place in that, because as my husband loves me and I love him, God loves the church. And there is an order to why he's done what he's done or what he says here. And these, again, are guidelines of what followers should and should not do. So it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to express emotion, but don't stay there. Don't vent it to somebody who doesn't understand. Just bring it to God. And be okay with asking, what do you have for me in this? Keep learning. Praise God, we can keep learning. Okay, Psalms 37:30 through 40. It goes right along with the reading in Job 4-7 and 1 Corinthians 14. I have this book from David Jeremiah, and here he has thoughts here on Psalm 37:39, and it's called Cling to God. And I want to read it to you because, it's really, really impactful, I think. So, here's a way for you to think about this next time trouble comes. Let's read the verse real quick that he's referring to. The Lord rescues the godly. He is their fortress in times of trouble. Okay? If you and God are standing apart from one another and trouble comes between you, it drives you further apart. But if you are in trouble and you cling to God with all your might, never letting the trouble come between you, then you have the victory. In fact, the pressure of the trouble will push you closer and closer to God. It will only serve to strengthen your relationship with Him. Some never experience the nearness of God as much as they do when they are in the desert places of life, a dry season. That happens by not letting trouble come between you and God. Prayer is a way to cling to God. You reach out to Him and communicate with Him the words of your heart. You pour out your praises and your petitions, and you say in an attitude of prayer until deliverance comes. It is so great with today's reading. I love it. It's so true. I saw a quote the other day, probably on Facebook. When life has you hanging on by a thread, make sure it's the hem of His garment. Think of that. the accounts in the Bible. Don't want to say stories because they're real. The feeding of the 5,000. Peter walking on the water and then focused on the waves and lost his footing. The lady who was bleeding for so many years, she lost all of her family and lost all of her money to doctors that could not heal her. She grabbed onto his hem and he called her daughter. He healed her. Ooh, that's what the Bible is for us. Cling to it. Get to know him more. And then, of course, to wrap up with Proverbs 21:27. The Life Application Bible says it this way, which I loved. God loathes, hates the gifts of evil men, especially if they are trying to bribe him. Think of tithing to get something in return, or volunteering to be rewarded, or checking the box by going to church or reading daily or serving others just to be announced that you're doing this, to show that you're there. If it's not led in love to serve him and nothing but just doing it out of obligation and not obedience out of submission, it is for you. It is for me. It is not for him. And our praise needs to go to him. God will honor those who love him. And even if we're suffering, hold on tighter. Cling to him. Look to him. Don't let news be your guideline. Don't let other people who don't follow him be a guideline. Cling to him because he has a plan. He has a purpose. Think of how he's made you. Give it all to him. It's okay to share the questions. It's okay to share the emotion, but give it to him. Leave it at his feet and keep serving him. So that's what I had today. God is so good all the time. You are loved. You are not alone. Praying that you have a wonderful weekend where you can bless others because he has blessed you. Even in the trials, he has blessings for you. So be well. We'll see you next time.